What's up, everyone? I'm Matt Bauer. Today I'm joined by an eminent client, a client who's been with the agency for a decade now, Bobby DeVee. Bobby, firstly, before anything, I want to ask, how are you? How's Bobby the person, not the rugby player?
Yeah, Bobby the person, Bobby the rugby player seems like it sometimes gets meshed into one. So a lot of, I'd say, probably how I am is very much dependent on how 90% of my day in the rugby field goes. So yeah, I think I'm good. I'm in a good space. Yeah, can't say more than that, but yeah, I'm good.
And not too worried now going into the cold, or are you used to that now, being over in the UK?
Nah, and every year I say that I'm used to it, and then they throw the first zero or -2 something at you, and then I just think to myself, I'm not built for this. I'm a son of the sun, and yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been here for quite a while now, so you kind of start getting used to it as winter progresses, and then you just have to get through that like January phase, and you should be good.
And then you're all good. Okay, so if you could give us a little introduction from where you started playing rugby, some of the teams you played for, to where you are now.
Yeah, I won't bore everyone with like mentioning my high school and my primary school, relatively small schools. But yeah, I started my professional career at under 19, as most boys do, and I was at the Bulls for a year. Subsequently, got let go from there because probably just wasn't big enough, I was told. So, found myself traveling across the Yixkay, joined the Lions, where I spent, I think about five or so, 6 years. Met a lot of like some of my closest friends there, and then from there, I think I was struggling a bit to get game time at the top flight. I was behind someone like Franco Mostert, who was, yeah, his record speaks for itself.
Yeah,
So I then decided to go and join the Southern Kings, who were competing in the Pro 14, and yeah, I think that's where I'd say my career finally like took off, if you want to call it that. I was getting game time minutes every week and got to measure myself up against some of the best in Europe. And yeah, I think that's kind of the bit of the confidence and the kick up the backside I needed to prove to myself and to everyone that I want to play top flight rugby, and I deserve to play top flight rugby
yeah.
with the performance I was putting in and week out. And then, yeah, I think three or 4 years there before the team faced some administrative issues and got liquidated, which then presented the opportunity for me to join Ealing Trailfinders, which is where I still currently am now. So yeah,
Brilliant. What's that now? 5 years you've been there now?
yeah, 5 years, 5 years.
Amazing, eh? Like in today's game, that loyalty and it's very rare for someone to stay at a team for a long time. For you, what's it about Ealing? Is it the people? What's it that's like kept you there for so long, and that you've been so loyal to them in these 5 years? Because you often read that Bobby DeVee top 14 team or URC team or Prem team are linked with you, but you've stayed loyal. And what is it about Ealing that's kept you there and that loyalty?
Yeah, I think Ealing has values, I'd say, that aligns with my own personal values quite a bit. They are a very ambitious club, and albeit things haven't went the way that we would have liked for us to get promoted and earn our rightful place at the top, they are still very ambitious. And as I said, it's a value I align with myself. They're constantly making strides to put themselves in the best position. And I think if you look at their recruitment over the past couple of years, or since I've joined, they always strive to get the best players.
Yeah,
And once the players get here, we have such a diverse group of players. I mean, there's obviously English players, there's Irish, we have guys from New Zealand over now, we have quite a healthy contingency of like South African players, and
yeah,
I think all those South African players just being there, like we always get like lose one, get one in, lose one, get one in.
yeah,
So we're always quite strong on the South African front, and it makes it feel a bit like home.
yeah,
Like we have a guy that was from, like, as you know, like from Durban, Sian Giza. So
yes,
I can be chatting closer to him at one stage. Then I have Carl Haderl from Bad Plus that I'm speaking Afrikaans to, and then I have to switch back to English. So I think all of those sorts of things are what really makes Ealing feel like it's home for me. Um, I'd be oblivious to leave out the fact that there is obviously a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, in being that I can qualify for my my UK residency and my UK passport. Um,
When is
so yeah,
that?
I qualify in for indefinite leave to remain in December.
Amazing,
Um,
man.
yeah, so it wasn't something that was part of my initial goal when I joined Ealing.
Yeah,
Um, the goal's always been to get them promoted, but I qualify in December, and I was when I speak to people and people ask me, he's like, why haven't you come back to South Africa? Why haven't you? I was like, at the end of my rugby career, if I can put my family in a better position,
spot on.
be that financially or by saying to my children, listen, you have the opportunity to live in the UK one day if you want because you are English qualified now,
Yeah,
then you know what, then I would say that my rugby career has been a success. I think too many people get stuck on the fact that you need to have been a Springbok or you need to have
yeah,
played 1,000 games for the Lions, or for whichever team in order for your career to be deemed successful. But if I can have something that I can actually show for it afterwards, then
spot
I'm a happy
on.
man.
I think a lot of people now are so short-sighted when it comes to rugby and their careers. I think that if you're lucky enough to have a 10-year career at the highest level, that's long, and the rest of your life is 30, 40 years. So setting yourself and your family up for that is so important. And speaking of family, you recently made a big decision and a very exciting one and got engaged. Tell us about that, your fiance, how you met her, and how important she's been to you in these last couple of years.
Yeah, so I met my fiance probably about four years. So I was only officially on the market for a year in London before I met her, and yeah, the saying goes that it's love at first sight. I saw her, and I think I said to my roommate at the time, Simon Uzokwe, I said to him, like, I'm gonna marry that girl. And he gave me the, oh, you say that, you always say that, and I was like, no, I'm being dead ass. I'm gonna marry her. And yeah, once again, another reason why I feel like indebted to Ealing is that actually met her at the rugby club.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, she doesn't like me saying this, but she came to watch another guy play. He's a mutual friend of ours that I was sort of like mentoring at the stage. So I went to go watch the game purely from a rugby point of view, and yeah, I probably wasn't paying much attention to the rugby and more to her. And yeah, we kind of hit it off from there. And yeah, that's as I said, like if I hadn't been at Ealing, if I hadn't been in the position that I was in at Ealing, I would probably never have met her.
Spot on.
So yeah, things are going well between us. We're obviously planning the wedding now, and it's stressful. I think it's more stressful for her than it is for me. I just smile, wave, and say yes, it looks good, and we move along. Um, yeah, she's been a rock for me. I think, especially having been away from home. I think no one more than partners gets to see how stuff like selection, injuries, just having a bad day at the office, how all those things play into a player's mental health more than your
Spot on.
partner or your family. And yeah, I think the most time we've probably spent apart has been a week
Wow.
over the past 4 or 5 years. And she gets to see it all. She's the high. She's been there for the highs. She's been there for the lows throughout my Ealing career, and yeah, a large part of my mental well-being and my physical well-being to her. Before her, I was eating takeaways every second day, and I get to come home to a home-cooked meal, and I think it's those small things
Spot
that
on.
that make the biggest difference. And it's what I've always looked for in a partner. She's my safe space, my peace. So there's nothing more than after a game, or even if it's after win or loss, being able to come home to her. She doesn't know a thing about rugby.
I
She
think
does
that
not
that
know it.
makes it even better because
Yeah,
whether you had a good or bad game, it's
yeah. She still asks me till today. She's like, "You play prop, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." I guess the skin folds are going up a bit again. She thinks I play prop, so I have to constantly remind her what position I play. But it's as you say. Whether it's been a good game or a bad game, I could have had one of the worst games on earth, and she'll come home and she's like, "I thought you were good." She told the
yeah.
one photographer, she's like, "Bobby's good at catching the ball," and I was like, "Yeah, that says it all."
Okay, man. So yeah, the main point of this and what we're going to be looking to do is when players are injured, I feel like whether it's by their unions, by agents, by people, maybe not so people close to them, but fans, you sort of you're overlooked, and it's the people in the light now that get all the focus and the attention and the love. But I think it's so important now in 2025 that injured players also get that same
Yep.
attention and are able to speak. You're currently injured at the moment. if you could just tell us what that injury is, and yeah, some of the mental struggles you go through, not being able to play, not being able to do what you love, not being able to do your job.
Yeah. So I'm actually I'd say the back part of my injury now. It's subsequently waiting or getting back into form to be able to be selected and that sort of thing. But yeah, training hard. I've had I think last year, January or February, I um, broke my wrist, if you want to call it that. I opted not to go for surgery immediately because we were in the playoffs and there was still a league title to secure. And I had own personal goals that I wanted to achieve through the year and subsequently ended up playing with it a bit longer. And I think I did a bit more damage. But yeah, back end of the season, I went for surgery and got it all sorted. Started my rehab process. And as you know, there's a lot of things that go into it, a lot more things that can go wrong, a lot more things that can go wrong than things that need to go right in order
Yeah,
for you to be 100%. And as with any injury, it's never really the same afterwards. Um, Also, having had an eye on the fact that, I'm 31 years old, the body probably doesn't heal as well as it does when you're 18 years old.
yeah,
But yeah, I've come out of the other side of it. Had a bit of an extended preseason on the sidelines with a lot of fitness because I did when initially happened. I thought to myself, I was like, "Oh, it's a wrist. It's an injury. I might miss a bit of preseason. I won't have to do the Bronco." And then they were like, "Well, it's your wrist. You can still
you
run."
can
So
run.
yeah, I've been doing a lot of running, which I'm thankful for because I feel very well conditioned now. I feel fit, strong, and all those sorts of things. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but I've also made peace with the fact that if you think that it's ever going to be 100% again, it's
Spot on.
not. So it's not 100%, but yeah, it's good enough for me to strap up, and it's good enough for me to take some hits and give hits, and that's what my game's based around. So I'm more than happy to roll it out and get it sorted after rugby one day.
Spot on, man. I think that's a big thing that people, I think, don't see. I think they see players, they'll pick up an injury and then it'll be like, he's back now, he's 100% fine. Or
Yeah,
you'll come back, you'll have a preseason and then it'll be like, well, they just had preseason. So, like, it's almost like they expect people to be
must
robots.
be
Like,
right.
you
Yeah,
just reset, you're 100%. And I think it's so rare that a player actually plays at 100%. There's always a small
yeah,
niggle or something. And I think that mental strength of being able to say, you know what, like, I'm going to play through this. It's a good and bad thing because you're able to push through, but then what are the long-term effects? So it's things like that that are quite challenging that people probably don't see that you go through as a player.
yeah. I mean, when it happened, I'm obviously once again with my partner or my fiance. I'd say I discuss a lot of what's happening, how I'm feeling. Oi.
We've got
I've
a
discussed a lot
visitor.
of yeah. He
Big
wants
man,
to say hello.
is he awake now?
I think he's finally defrosted, or he just wants to lay on my lap. One of the two. But yeah, I discussed a lot of what's happening with my partner, and it's stuff that affects both of our futures and our lives together. And I said to her, I was like, you get an injury, and you always think to yourself, like, how's this going to affect me in the time
Spot on.
after rugby? Um, as I said, I struggled quite a bit with my wrist and just getting it fine again. And I thought to myself, like, is this going to affect my ability to be able to play with my children one day? And those are all the things that your mind sort of casts. So I think the older you get as well, the more it kind of like goes to that.
Spot
And
on.
ultimately, she said to me, she's like, you know your body best than anyone, and you have a knack for hiding injuries, but I need you to be smart about it. If there's something that's still bothering you, speak to them. And you are in preseason also. This is probably the right time to get it fixed. And I said to her, I don't think my wrist will ever be fine. I think it's one of those things that like you just kind of crack on with it. Sooner rather than later, it'll start feeling like the new norm, and that's what
Yes.
it's kind of felt like. I've had to adapt what I do in the gym, how I do it, like just be a lot more smart around giving it the love that it needs, I guess,
Yeah.
and still being able to get the job done to a high standard. So yeah, I'd be lying if I said my mind didn't go to all those things, and I think that's the mental part of rugby that you probably say that a lot of people don't think about. Teams put out that Matt and Bobby are injured or whatever, and people are so quick to jump into the comments and be like, "Yeah, he's always injured, or he's
Yeah.
always this, he's always that," and people don't understand that no rugby player signs up to be injured. So if you have an
We don't
ACL
want to.
injury and
Spot on.
yeah, if you have an ACL injury and you're on the sidelines for 9 months, that's 9 months of the year that you essentially lose your purpose, your, as I said, what gets you up in the morning and what drives you,
Absolutely.
and being taken away from the proverbial limelight. It is difficult for players, as much as no one wants to admit it, and it is difficult whether you have a 2 week injury or 2 year injury. It is very difficult, and that's why that support system that I speak about becomes so vitally.
And I think it's so important. I think if you look back at maybe times when you're injured and didn't have a partner or supporting partner, did you find it more difficult? Whereas now you have that support and that person you can speak to that understands. Has that made a big difference? Because I think a lot of players don't want to speak about things, regardless if it's to a partner or to a
Yeah,
coach. We just bottle
yeah.
things up.
I think that, you know what, I'm very. I think I've been very fortunate. You mentioned I've been at Eminent for a better part of about a decade now, and it's Dane and myself have always had a very good relationship, and I don't think a lot of players have that sort of relationships with their agents. And he's a lot more of a brother and a friend to me than he is. Don't get me wrong; he's a very good, flippant good agent. But I've
Yes.
always seen him as my brother and my friend first, and not just from a business point of view. So he's probably been one of the people that I've heavily relied on during my career, that I speak to when I'm, even when I'm going through selection drama or troubles, and I speak to him and I was like, yeah, it's this, it's that. So it does make it easier having that good support system.
Yes.
But I'm also wary that if 10 o'clock at night, when I'm in my head, it's probably not professional for me to just call my agent and be like, listen, can you talk to me and just tell me that I'm still good. So having a partner's definitely made it easier from that part. I can just give a nudge in bed and be like, listen, can we quickly have a chat? Can you please tell me I'm good again? So yeah, I think it's early on in my career, I probably turned to things that are a bit more unhealthy. And I can be honest and say, is like, you probably wait for Saturday night to go out and have a couple of drinks, probably take it a bit too far, wake up with the Sunday scaries. um, and yeah, I think those were probably more the things that I used to do. You wait for the team to get off the field, and then, boys, where are we going tonight?
Yeah.
Because that's your way of coping with it and dealing with it. But dealing with it in a way that's probably, or not probably, that's unhealthy, because you don't speak about what's bothering you. You
No.
just mask that pain. Whereas
Spot on.
as I said, that support system that I have now, I can verbalize what I'm feeling, and I can get it out in the open, and I actually feel so much better for it, as opposed to waking up with the Sunday scaries again.
Yeah, spot on, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest and vulnerable. I think it is a space in the game that needs to be tapped into more. And I think the more players come out and speak, the better it's going to become for guys, younger guys coming through now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions here. Your dad is a big All Black fan. How are you an All Black fan? Did you grow up an All Black fan, a Borg fan,
You
or?
know what? I grew up such a big All Black fan. My dad used to support the Crusaders. I adopted the Blues, and my brother adopted the Hurricanes. And we grew up despising, not despising, but almost rooting for whatever team South Africa played against. And it was like that until I was like in my early 20s, I'd say, probably. And right now, I'm such a big lover of the Springboks, the rugby that they play. My dad probably would take me out of the wool if he heard me saying this, but yeah. But I think my dad grew up in a different era of South African rugby, and you kind of have to look at it for what it was back then.
Yes,
And you know what? You grow up watching your dad watch a team, and you inadvertently end up supporting that same team. But
spot on.
his reasons for having supported the All Blacks and my reasons for having supported them is two completely different things. So I kind of got to an age where I had to discern, like, am I really supporting the All Blacks, or am I just supporting my dad? And it was
Yeah,
just the love that we shared for the game. And yeah, I think since about 2017, 18, 19, when I started coming into my own in my professional career, you start playing against Springboks, you see what makes them Springboks, and you have friends that ultimately become Springboks.
become,
And
yeah,
yeah, like I had someone like Malcolm Marx was probably my first friend that became a Springbok, and you can't justify being like, "Ah, oh, it's my butt, I love you," but I'm hoping that they thrash you this weekend.
yeah,
So those sort of things have all made me have more of a love for the Springboks, and that's ultimately how it became. Someone like Vincent, that's at the company now, is massively proud of the journey and the road that he's taken into claiming for those higher honors, and massively proud of him. And if you look at the brand that the Springboks has and being able to unite people, I think that's what it's all about as well. Being able to take someone
Absolutely.
that's from All Blacks loving home, that my dad still asks me like, "Hey, can you organize me tickets for the All Black Springboks game?" And I was like, "Were you gonna go supporting?" Be like the All Blacks, and I'll be like, "Okay, it's fine." Like being able to come from a home like that and
Yeah.
still having that relationship with him where I can say, I hope the Springboks win this weekend. That's what epitomizes the way that the Springboks play and what they play for.
Man, that's so cool. Speaking of playing, I've got two questions. Your favorite stadium you've played in and the best opposition player you've played against.
Oof. I think best I've played in was with Ellis Park. Yeah, I think it's South Africa's theatre of dreams for a
Yeah.
reason. It has I think it's also like running down that long ass tunnel. You
It's
think
so
about all
long.
the
By the time you get onto the field, you need your second
yeah.
minute.
Yeah. So I think like the history and the players that have run through there, I think that creates an atmosphere in itself. And then, it's a bit sad to see what it's come to in recent times with fans obviously not going to the games and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
if that place is full, it's probably one of the best places in world rugby. Best player I've played against. There's a couple for different reasons. I think about someone like Bill Mata, having played against him.
Oh, yeah.
Um, scary human
Yeah,
being.
I'm sure.
Yeah, scary human being that moves at terrifying speeds and is a big boy. The first time I saw him, I was like, pretty sure you didn't look this big when I watched the video back of you, but he's big. He's the size of a second rower that moves like a winger. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's probably one of the more talented and scary players that I've played against. Yeah, I'd probably have to say it'll be Big Bill Mata. Yeah.
And then just before we wrap up, someone you looked up to, could have been a rugby player that you looked up to and wanted to be like, could be someone off the field. Is there someone that comes to mind that you've looked up to?
Yeah, I think it ebbs and flows. Like through my rugby career, I've probably looked at the slightly built rugby players, um, trying to model my game on them because, as I said, I've always been one of the skinnier players. Um, in
Not
recent
anymore.
times, yeah, in recent times it's probably changed a bit. I'll credit it to my fiance's cooking. Um, but yeah, so I've always used to model my games on someone like Courtney Laws, for example. Franco Mostert, guys that pride themselves on their defense.
Yeah.
And yeah, growing up once again in an All Blacks household, I used to love watching John Olomu play, but very quickly realized that I don't have the size or the strength to play like him. So that kind of went out the window. But then, yeah, like the hard hitters, Jerry Collins, those sort of guys are all people that I used to look at and I'm like, I really want to play like them. But
Yeah.
the more realistic I became, it probably became someone like a Franco Mostert. And I'd say a Courtney Laws is probably in someone that I've loved watching throughout my career.
Man, that's cool. Just quickly, I was chatting to Bobby a couple of days ago before we set this up, and when he moved to the Kings, I just signed for the Kings Academy at the time, and we looked up to the Kings players, and like I was the lock and Bobby was the lock, and that was like, for me, you were someone that I looked up to. I was like, just the way you did things, you have like a swag on the field for a lock, and yeah, so it's really cool that like I've now been able to chat to you. So thank you for being someone I still look up to now, even though I'm not playing. Like just how you go about you every day. Yeah, the man you are. So thank you so much. For me, it's been really cool to sort of watch your career, and now to chat to you has been amazing. So thank you very much for that.
No, and as I said to you when we spoke the first time, it's crazy to me how we came full circle. When I joined the Kings at that stage, I was relatively unknown to anyone and everyone. The Kings kind of had this way of picking up players that were all tossed to the side by their old
Yeah,
unions and giving them that platform for what ultimately why we signed for the Kings. And I remember Matthew wrote the first, like my first, I call it my high piece. It was my first ever high piece where someone was like, player to look out for. And I remember receiving the Instagram notification for it, and it came through, and I was like, I've made it. Like I've got my first high piece, and I remember taking screenshots of it and sending it to my dad, and I was like, if only my old coaches could see me now. And so, yeah, you were my first ever hype man, and I don't think I think the fact that you've come on board shows that you have an eye for talent. Not because you saw something in me, but you have an eye for talent, and you still are my plug into South African sports.
Yeah.
Being able to see someone like a Vusi Moyo, for example, and you call Chisel Justo when he was playing under 16 and all those sorts of things. So I think all those things have set you up for where you are going, and the eye that you have for talent. So you play a very, very, very big part in a lot of players' careers, because you were the first person. I say the first person, but you were one of the first people that saw that in me, wrote that about me, and kind of gave me that confidence that I needed, because I'm like, I want to continue doing this. I want to continue having articles like this. So I'm foreverly indebted to you and the work that you do, my bro. Honestly,
Thank you.
so
I
happy
appreciate
we've
that
come
so
full
much.
circle.
And just before we wrap up, for the next guest that comes on, do you have a question for them? Can be about anything.
The story on how they signed with Dane Galley.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm pretty sure that should make for enough content for people to, and they must only tell the truth.
Only the truth. But Bobby, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. All the best getting back on the field. It's going to be very soon now. And send love to your fiance, and we'll see you soon, big guy.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I appreciate that so much, bro.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.